Hello and welcome to Precon Decon, the video series where I deconstruct the pre-constructed decks of Magic the Gathering's history. In this video we're going to look at the second Planeswalker deck from War of the Spark, which is Jace, Arcane Strategist, which is once again blue-green, which is apparently just the colour Jace associates himself with in these Planeswalker decks. Yeah, really looking forward to about this one because man, it's really good. Spoilers, but yeah, it's super good. Really want to talk about this one. So we've got the deck list here. So we've got 22 creatures, 7 sorceries, 2 instants, 2 enchantments, 25 land, and like the Gideon one, 2 planeswalkers because we're in War of the Spark and there's planeswalkers everywhere. And we've got a mana curve off to the side there. So let's just dive in and start talking about this one. So let's take a look at Jace, Arcane Strategist. So he is 4 and double blue for 4 loyalty, which is the same as the Gideon Oathsworn. Kind of, you know, six mana for 4 loyalty is kind of like a little below curve. But unlike those other previous expensive planeswalkers where they've just come in and that's all they've done, he's at least got a passive ability, which is whenever you draw your second card each turn, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control, which is pretty good. And his +1 is to draw a card, so that is guaranteed. That essentially reads, draw a card and also put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control. So that is like a really nice start, and also that +1/+1 counter is really going to matter when we see the rest of the deck. And then his -7 is to make your creatures unblockable for a turn, which is that's obviously just you want to use that to end the game. +1 to build up to 7 is pretty slow, but I think there's actually not too much trouble doing that, as we'll see in the rest of the deck. There's definitely ways to get his loyalty up nice and high. And there's a lot of card draw actually as well to trigger that second ability. So let's take a look at his signature cards. So we've got 2 Jace's Ruse, 3 in double blue, return up to 2 target creatures to their owner's hand. You may search your library or graveyard for Jace, blah, blah, blah. So I think this is almost identical to the one from Ixalan, which was, I feel, also like 3 in double blue at sorcery speed to bounce 2 things. What was it, consuming tidal wave, something like that? I don't know. But yeah, I think it was almost exactly the same, wasn't it? It's sorcery speed, bounce 2 things, 5 mana, and also search up Jace. I think this is like perfectly fine. As I'm always partial to a bounce spell that gets more than one thing, even though it is a bit expensive and slow. But at least it does also search up Jace. So yeah, I'm fine with this. So then continuing the trend of the Planeswalker buddy card, so Gideon's one was pretty good, I thought. Jace's Projection, also pretty good. So 2 in double blue as a 2/2. Whenever you draw a card, put a +1/+1 counter on Jace's Projection. So that, again, right off the bat, is like just a really solid ability. One of my favorite creatures is Law Scale Kotal, from back in Alara, which was like a blue-green snake, which had exactly this ability. Whenever you drew a card, you put a +1/+1 counter on it. There's card draw in here, obviously synergizes with Jace's ability. And his passive ability, actually, because then you draw a card, you get a +1/+1 counter, and then you've probably drawn a second card for the turn, so you can get another +1/+1 counter. So yeah, this is obviously just going to keep growing. So this is really nice. And then like the Gideon's one we saw in the last one, 3 in a blue, put a loyalty counter on a Jace Planeswalker. Yeah, I think this is just the absolute what all the Planeswalker buddy cards should have been, just really solid creatures, and then just help out their attendant Planeswalker by just giving them extra loyalty counters. So yeah, really like Jace's Projection. Probably about the same as the Gideon's one, actually. I think they're about equal. And then we've got 4 Guild Pack Informant, 2 in a blue for a 1/1 flyer. Whenever it deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, proliferate. Yes, because proliferate came back in War of the Spark, and it had we'd seen it before back in New Phyrexia and Scars Mirrodin, like that block, where it had been exclusively associated with Phyrexians, but here you had a bunch of planeswalkers going around with a bunch of loyalty counters. So proliferate is there to bump up all their loyalty counters and stuff. So this is really, really good. And you've got +1/+1 counters in here as well, like from Jace's Projection, and also his the passive ability he had. So there is a lot that proliferate in this, for proliferate to do in this deck, and this is far from the only ability or card that does that. So yeah, this is really solid. The fact that it's just it's Thrumming Bird, actually, isn't it? It's absolutely Thrumming Bird, except it can, I think it triggers on Planeswalkers, where Thrumming Bird, I think, only triggers on hitting players. But yeah, this is really good to have 4 of these, really like that. Right, so then the other two rares, these are absolute knockout rares, I think, for this deck. So one is Bioessence Hydra, so 3 a green and a blue for a 4/4 with trample. It enters the battlefield with a +1/+1 counter for every loyalty counter on planeswalkers you control, which is really solid. And then whenever one or more loyalty counters are put on planeswalkers you control, put that many +1/+1 counters on Bioessence Hydra. So yeah, I think that's a really great, great ability, honestly, and also goes really well with Proliferate, because if you proliferate, you add a extra loyalty counter, say, onto Jace or the other planeswalker you got in here, and then Bioessence Hydra gets a counter, and then you can proliferate and get an extra counter there. And also it's a big trampler. So yeah, this is like a really good, solid, big beater for the deck. And then the other rare is also an absolute knockout, is Spark Double. This is such a good rare to have in here. So 3 in the blue. It's basically clone, except it can also do Planeswalkers, which is really well, it's not quite clone, is it? Because you do your stuff, but it gets a bunch of extra bonuses. So you can have it enter the battlefield as a copy of a creature or Planeswalker you control. So it has nice flexibility that you can double up on a Planeswalker. Except it enters with an additional +1/+1 counter on if it's a creature, or it enters with an extra loyalty counter on it if it's a planeswalker, and it isn't legendary if the permanent in copies was legendary. So yeah, you can have double Jace out and just absolutely go to town and just draw a bunch of cards, get a bunch of counters on things. Yeah, this is super, super good. There's a really good rare to include in here. Yeah, so really, really strong start to the deck, and it's actually just, it stays strong. It's just good all the way through, I think, this deck. So then we've got 3 Bloom Hulks, 3 in a green for a 4/4, which is just really solid stats anyway. And when it enters the battlefield, you proliferate. Yep, that's exactly what you want to be doing, because you've got so many things that do +1/+1 counters, and if you have Jace out as well, like proliferate his counters, his loyalty counters. Yeah, really, really good. 3 Pollen Bright Druid, 1 in a green for a 1/1. When it ends the battlefield, you choose one. You can either put a +1/+1 counter on target creature, or you can proliferate. So it is nice. It has got that, because early game, if you want to play this, you're not likely to have anything to proliferate, so you can at least make it a 2/2. It's like then it's basically what better Iron Shell Beetle then, isn't it? There's always this kind of green creature that has it's a 2-drop the 1/1 and puts a counter on something. But yeah, the fact this has the option is really nice, because late game if you draw this, that proliferate is going to almost certainly do a lot more than just doing a single +1/+1 counter. So that's really, really nice, and 3 of them again as well, which is great. And then 2 Kiora's Dambreaker, 5 in a blue, so kind of expensive, but 5/6 when it enters the battlefield, proliferate. So it's just a bigger, smashier Bloom Hulk. But again, ETB proliferate is really solid. Then we've got 2 Merfolk Skydivers, green and blue for 1/1 with fly. When it ends the battlefield, you put a +1/+1 counter on a creature you control. So again, very similar to the Pollen Druid. But it has a nice mana sink ability, 3 a green and a blue, proliferate. So yeah, late game, just keep proliferating away, increasing that counter. You've at least got a counter on one thing there from its ability. Yeah, this is really nice. Again, late or early game, it's really nice, because you play it early, it can be a 2/2 flyer, and then late game you use its proliferate ability. So yeah, really, really good. They've got 2 Ward Scale Crocodile, 4 and a green for a 5/3 with Hexproof, which is really, I mean, right off the bat, that's like a real nightmare to deal with. And in a deck where you've got a load of things that put +1/+1 counters on things, a big Hexproof creature that's going to keep getting +1/+1 counters is going to be an absolute nightmare to deal with. So yeah, this is really, really nice here. And same with Primordial Worm, doesn't have any abilities. I mean, this is probably the weakest card in the deck, and it's actually not even that bad, I would say, just being a 6 mana 7/6. It's just because it has like no other ability, does it? So this would be an easy first cut, just for more like proliferate stuff. I'm going to say proliferate so much it's going to lose all meaning. But yeah, I mean, obviously these are just nice big fatties. I suppose the one thing is that there's not really too much actual ramp in the deck, and you've got some pretty big you've got some pretty big things and like expensive abilities. So you've also got in here Kiora Behemoth Beckoner as an uncommon planeswalker, so 2 and a single Simic hybrid mana for a 7 loyalty planeswalker. But she's an uncommon walker, she has nothing. Well, I was going to say she has nothing that increases her loyalty, but you do. You have a bunch of bloody proliferate effects, don't you? So you're actually kind of okay. So whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, draw a card. You actually have quite a few in here. And then she has a -1 untap target permanent, which, can be land, so she can sort of serve as ramp, or like give a creature pseudo vigilance. Yeah, just a really just solid ability. Even if you never like get loyalty back on her from like proliferating, you can at least use this ability. Well, I was going to say at least 7 times, not if she gets attacked, but you know what? If she goes, unmolested, essentially, you can get 7 untaps out of it, which is obviously pretty good. And then we've got 2 Courage in Crisis, 2 in a green, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature and then proliferate. So that creature is then going to get basically at least 2 +1/+1 counters from this, isn't it? But then obviously the real strength is to proliferate, and then you just go and tick everything up by another 1, which is really good. So 2 of those is really nice. 2 stealth missions, 2 in a blue. Put 2 +1/+1 counters on target creature you control, and it can't be blocked this turn. So for 3, I mean, it's a sorcery speed, which is like a bit of a downside. But like, I think for 3, this is really nice. Like +2, 2 +1/+1 counters. So it's not even just +2/+2. It's like a permanent thing, and then make it unblockable. So yeah, on the ward scale crocodile or like the bioluminescent hydra, like anything like that. Is it bioessence? Bioessence. That's it. Just need to be more familiar with these cards. Yeah, I think this is a really solid little card, honestly, and obviously it gives counters, which goes in so well with what else the deck is doing. So this is really nice. Make those big fat creatures get through unopposed. 2 band togethers, 2 in a green, instant speed, up to 2 target creatures you control, each deal damage each of their power to another target creature, so they just like gang up and beat up one guy. Yeah, this being at instant speed actually is really solid, I think. And only 3 mana actually makes it, I think, a pretty solid removal spell. Especially considering you've got like quite a lot of big fatties in the deck, and a lot of obviously +1/+1 counters. So yeah, this is, I think, is a really effective little removal spell. We've got 2 New Horizons, 2 in the green. Enchantland, when it enters the battlefield, you put a +1/+1 counter on target creature control, which is absolutely, again, what you want to be doing. And it has tap, add 2 mana of any one colour. I completely lied about there being no ramp. There's actually this, which is a pretty good bit of ramp, actually, I think. Turning a land so it produces extra mana of any colour, and giving a counter when it comes in as well is really solid. So yeah, that's pretty good. And then a single Jace's Triumph, 2 in a blue sorcery, draw 2 cards. If you control a Jace Planeswalker, draw 3 cards instead. So at like bare minimum, it's Divination, which was like perfectly fine at the time. But yeah, if you have Jace out, then yeah, it's 3, which is obviously really good for 3 mana. Yeah, that's a pretty solid little draw spell. And then yeah, it was just straight into land. It's really nice actually because there's so many like. There's not a lot of 1 and 2 odds. There's hardly any random chaff, so we actually got through this pretty quickly, even with my rambling. So 4 Summit Guild Gates, which tend to enter play tap, give you green or blue, and then 10 islands and 11 forests. Yeah. So what could have been? It's really, really good, I think, as is. Like, I think it's put together really well. Everything clicks really nicely. Like, you've got counters, you've got planeswalkers, you've got proliferate. It's all just it's really nicely put together. But, we could have gone, I think, a little harder on it. I would have loved to see this get even more planeswalkers in it. Like, maybe like instead of like that Jace's Triumph, like Kasmina, that would have been a perfect, I think, switch in terms of like one uncommon for another. So Kasmina, 3 in a blue, comes in with fire loyalty. Spells your opponent's cast that target a creature or planeswalker cost 2 more to cast, so basically gives everything ward 2. And -2, create a blue wizard, 2/2 blue wizard creature token, and then draw a card and then discard a card. So she makes a pretty okay token, and also does a loot effect, which then of course you've got things that care about card draw. You've got like Jace's Illusion, and so that would have been, I think, a really nice switch to make there. And also then it's another planeswalker for Spark Double or Bioessence Hydra. Zhang Yangu, Wildcrafter, could have been a possible here. Really nice to see Zhang back from the global series. So yeah, he wasn't just a sort of a one hit wonder. So 2 in a green, so really cheap planeswalker, 2 in a green, comes in with 3 loyalty. Every creature you control with a +1/+1 counter has tap, add 1 mana of any color. So it would like really help you like ramp up really quickly, considering how many things you've got that give out +1/+1 counters. And then he's got -1 to just put +1/+1 counters on stuff anyway. So yeah, Zhang would have been really, really good, I think. And also Evolution Sage. This thing is absolutely nuts. I'm actually surprised it's not rare, because like to me it seems absolutely bonkers. So 2 in a green for 3/2. So like decent stats anyway. And it's basically like landfall proliferate, which is like what a wonderful combination of keywords there. Because everyone likes landfall, everyone likes proliferate. Put them together, and that is just an absolute chocolate peanut butter sandwich, isn't it? Yeah, that could have been amazing in here. I think. I think that would actually make the deck too good. Just having even just one or two of these, I think would have made it really really strong. Yeah, so overall, I think this one was really fantastic. This is definitely, I think, my favorite Planeswalker decks we've looked at so far. This is almost certainly going to make the top 5 at the end of this series when I've looked at them all. Yeah, I thought this one was great, and I don't think like the one bad card I think in here is like the Primordial Worm, and I said like even that's not bad because it's just a big smashy thing. It just goes to show like what happens when you have like a deck that has like a decent strategy and really focuses on it, and just it just works. I think this deck would have been an absolute like blast to play. I would have loved to pick this one up and use it. And I mean that could be my bias towards blue green and proliferate, I suppose. But yeah, really really liked this one. So that's War of the Spark done with. So in the next video, actually is going to be a little bit special because in the Gideon one, I said that we've sort of hit a kind of a peak in terms of Planeswalker decks. So like Gideon's deck was really good. This was excellent, I think. And all the Core Set 2020 decks are actually really, really good. The thing is with the Core Set 2020 decks is that they're so efficiently put together. They've actually got a lot of playsets in them. The individual videos for them I don't think would be very long. So what I've done with the Core Set 2020 videos, I'm just going to review them all in one video like I did with the old like 8th and 9th edition decks, and just absolutely smash through those because they're really, really well built. Yeah, really looking forward to talk about those. But we'll do that next time. If you got any thoughts or comments or stories, opinions about this particular deck, about this Jace deck and Proliferate in general, and just War of the Spark in general, and Uncommon Planeswalkers, what do you think about those? Stick a comment below. I'll give those a read. I actually really like to know what people think about this one. But I'll be back next time. Go and look at those 2020 Planeswalker decks. But until then, thanks for watching and listening, and have a great day.